Lewis said this, and he's now doing this. What now? You lot all thinking that he's like this beacon of like. Listen, he's going to go and do what he wants, but he's not. He's not a messiah, and he's not perfect. That's the truth, and neither is the fan base, Nasha.
Do people have a semblance of work-life balance? Yes or no?
Don't serve me up with those straw man yes or no
It's not
questions, Nasha.
straw man.
100.
You're like when my family told me to cut my dreads off to show that I was
Behave
a
yourself.
person.
Behave
No, but this is
yourself.
what you're saying. You're
Stop
saying,
putting words in my mouth, sir.
you're
You
saying,
no, that's not
you're
what I'm
saying-
saying. We're talking about Japan. What happened there when he put in one of the god-tier slaps that you've ever seen?
Let's move
When
on.
he went through
let's talk about the last race.
when he went through Degner turn 1 at a minimum speed never carried
why didn't he do
by
that this
any
week?
F1 car, because the car is an SH1T. Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Undercut Podcast with my friend, the legend that is one of the goatiest F1 content creators to have ever created F1, the one that they call Nasha of Quick Stop F1. How are you doing, sir? It doesn't matter how you're doing, sir, because we've got to get into some things today. Lewis Hamilton stuff. There's been some tweets, some chatter in the ether. Nasha, you will have seen by now that I put out this tweet, and again, I was talking my very unique brand of truth. The tweet looks something like this: Lewis, my sole focus is winning my first championship for Ferrari. Also, Lewis Hamilton, the Vogue cover with him on there, looking very dapper, by the way. Bow tie and all.
Looks great, yeah.
No, it doesn't look too bad. Nasha, tell me what was wrong with that tweet and why it's gone.
You know what was wrong with it. Let's stop.
Educate me, chap, because I don't think it was. I'll put forth my supposition in the first instance, and you can tell me that.
You know what? You tell me why you thought that was a good idea, and then I will tell you why you're getting cooked. Flame grilled, by the way.
Here it is, Nasha. I'm an F1 fan. I'm an F1 fan first, and a purveyor of all things truth value and objectivity second. So in the same way, Nasha, that when it was F1 75 anniversary and Max Verstappen's people were saying, oh, Max Verstappen's not coming back to this show if everybody's going to boo him roundly. The same way then that I tweet Max Verstappen at Zandvoort saying, you know what, away fans are going to come to the home stadium and they're going to get booed sometimes, is the same way I'm going to tweet, well, hang on, Lewis told us and me and you and we that he was focused solely in 2025 on winning not his 8th championship, but his first one for Scuderia Ferrari, that their red car with the yellow badge, black prancing horse atop. So hang on, what's this? What's changed? Maybe it's me maybe it's something that I'm missing, Nasha. But go on. As I read that, his actions are saying something very different from his words.
Do you think that any Formula One driver spends literally every waking second outside of the car, outside of the factory? Do you think they spend that poring over data, poring over engineering notes, poring on the phone to their engineers? Or do people have a semblance of work-life balance? Yes or no?
Don't serve me up with those straw man yes or no
it's
questions,
not
Nasha.
straw man.
100%. No, go on then, Nasha. 100% yes.
Okay, so let me finish.
Go on.
Okay, Cameron, do you think having a child is distracting?
1000%. 100%.
Do you think what's more distracting, having a child or doing a Vogue photo shoot?
I can't swim in these straw man waters with you, Nasha. It's too much.
No, I'm just asking. I'm asking you nice. I'm asking you.
Look,
what Lewis does in his spare time as a counteract or a counterbalance to his work and what he does at work is not. For me, I don't see why that's a detractor. Case in point, we've all seen Lewis, let's say, between, I would say, 2016, even 2014, 15. Basically, Lewis at Mercedes. We've seen Lewis at Mercedes grow his out of the car things to the point where he has then been able to win world championships. Let's not even forget, last season, Max Verstappen has done magazine covers. Max Verstappen has done his own personal conquest. He's had a documentary made about him. He's done brand deals. He's been on the cover of Time magazine. He's started his own sim company, I think, where companies are going to be able to use sims. What's that? Harnessing his interests outside of work, because Formula One now is about more than just the driver, is about more than just the car. Alonso's a manager. Science has all these things that he's doing now. Lando Norris has all the things he's doing. Charles Leclerc's got fucking ice cream and shit. I just think for you, I think it's really straw man of you to use a Vogue magazine cover as almost a counterpoint to Lewis saying that I'm going to give my all to win a title for Ferrari. And I just think, Cameron, that is really, of course you're going to get fucking cooked for that, Cameron, because it's ridiculous. And you not being able to see that is insane.
Here's the problem, Nasha. I don't think it's any more complicated or simple than this. I remember it distinctly, very clearly, verbatim. The interviewer said, Lewis, you've been brilliant outside the cockpit. You've got all these altruistic ventures, bloody mission for all of them. You can list them off, and he's done very well with those. But Scuderia Ferrari is something different. Will you be able to spin all them plates, balance all them things, and focus on performance in the car, dragging Scuderia Ferrari back to the mountaintop?
Is this verbatim?
No, well, I'm not quoting to the effect. No, that sounds paraphrased. Go on, I'll give you words to this effect. You've got all these other things outside of F1. How are you going to balance those and focus on winning a world championship for Ferrari with all the stuff that's going on there? To which Lewis responded, I'm focused on winning not the 8th, but the 1st for Ferrari. And so all that other stuff fades to black. I'm not focused. I'm not going to do all that other stuff. I will be focused exclusively on this.
It didn't say exclusively.
Okay.
Because I think that you've taken a sentence of I am here to constant. I am here. And look, we've seen. I mean, I feel like we do this every couple of weeks, Cameron. But he's not wearing clothes to track. Yeah, find the article, please. He's not wearing. It's probably in the that article with the doors. What was that? Was that Variety? Was it Time? Was it Time?
It wasn't, okay. Man. It was a question that the woman asked him.
Anyway, so all I'm saying is, let's say, like, if he said, I'm here to really concentrate and to bring Ferrari. I'm going to pour as much energy as I can. But I don't understand how there is like this, they're almost, what's the word, where they're not mutually exclusive things. Like, maybe you don't know what his schedule is like at race weekends. What was he doing at Mercedes during race weekends, which may be infiltrated into his personal thing? Has he cut that much down from his personal time into race weekends? Is he now solely focused on the job he's doing at the racetrack, which is probably maybe a reason why he's not lugging around 4 suitcases worth of clothes to decide what he's going to wear to the track? He's just coming in his uniform day in, day out. You know what you sound like? You sound like that Spanish reporter that was like, oh, Lewis has put his hair down, this is to distract us from the performance, blah, blah, blah. But that's what, like, do you know what I mean? Like, and you have to realize the reason you're getting cooked as well, Cameron, is that you're supposed to know that there needs to be an element of grace, and there needs to be because some of the comments sometimes when people, not that you are, but when people attack Lewis for essentially being an ambassador for the sport, by the way, you see F1 sharing those images. You see F1 sharing that. I never knew it was a bad thing for someone to be the greatest ambassador for this sport the sport has ever seen. I never knew that was like a bad thing. But for you to almost imply that this is like tomfoolery against his plans in the car. And sometimes as well, based on some of your content, where you're almost, I wouldn't say like delighting in, or you're mocking in some of the performances that have come.
No, negative. No, Nash, I rebuke you. No,
when you tweet sabotage, what's that about?
No, here's the mocking. I'm mocking the fan base.
Okay,
like, look, Nash, no. Listen. And the two of those, for me, as I perceive them, are mutually exclusive. And again, it's a weird one because you almost want to say that Lewis and the fan base are synonyms of each other, and you can't delineate between the two. I can, Nasha, because my journey with Sir Lewis, and again, we have this every time, right? 2006 GP, 2 Sionian, PK, Magnussen, Beckett. That's where me and Lewis started off. Do you know what I mean? The first one to come to power, 2007. That's my journey with Lewis. Only yesterday, Nasha, I was smiling with Gilly watching that chap on Top Gear the second time round, when all my mates were telling me that Sebastian Vettel is the better driver. Lewis Hamilton jumps in that car and dunks on Sebastian Vettel's head to the tune of 1 second in the dry. That's the Sir Lewis Hamilton that I fell in love with, chap, all those many cycles ago. So moving on to 2025 now, all I want to see is that dude rock up again. Now he's a different man, and far be it for me to say that people don't need to. People go through different phases of their life and mature, and sometimes you want to be a racer and sometimes you want to go to the Met Gala, and that's all well and good, right? But I can't, truth and objectivity, Nasha, as far as the community and the fan base and the diaspora to a lesser extent, they're not cozy bedfellows. So what I'm doing there, Nash, in real time is I'm just saying, look, hang on, look at this. Lewis said this and he's now doing this. What now? You lot all thinking that he's like this beacon of, like, listen, he's going to go and do what he wants, but he's not a messiah and he's not perfect. That's the truth. And neither is the fan base, Nasha. I think Lewis Hamilton, if you were to have a word with him in his honest time, would lean into some of the criticisms. He'd say that, listen, I'm not perfect. I'm going to contradict myself. I might say that hang on, Nasha. He might say that one day, well, my team don't make mistakes, and then the next second, Mercedes are going to create a donkey of a car full of nothing but mistakes, porpoising. So listen, I'm just talking truth, value, and objectivity. F1 over everything, Nasha, and that's just me looking at the fan base and just saying, well, how daft have you been?
It's ironic. Daft. It's ironic that you would discuss a fan base that sees no wrong in their driver and then covet favor with the fan base that believes that their driver can put their car, a car which is apparently the worst car on the grid, on pole position through nothing but talent. And then the next week can't seem to get over some simple handling instructions or handling deficiencies in the car. So I just think, for me, you, as someone who is a soothsayer, a truth teller, for you to have beef with Team LH and to poke that bonnet, well, no, not beef, but for you to have misgivings with Team LH and how they conduct themselves, as you've just said there, and then to poke that bear with what you said, and then be surprised by the reaction
negative.
To
not surprised, Nasha. Not surprised. Not even offended. Nasha is the honest truth. Listen, I think
you're taken aback. You're taken aback by the response. Cameron, don't try and front now for the cameras. And we've had off-camera conversations. I'm not going to let you get away with it. You've been taken aback by the response of on that tweet. Have you not?
Taken aback's not how I'd characterise it, Nasha. Being honest, not taken aback. I think it's a difference in extents and not kinds. I didn't think it was. I didn't anticipate such a fervent, vitriolic reaction because I thought it was a nothing burger of a tweet, Nasha. Genuinely, Lewis Hamilton said this. Well, what's going on now? There's nothing
because it's a ridiculous. It's a ridiculous statement.
If the truth is ridiculous, Nasha, then I'm ridiculous and the tweet is ridiculous. But it was the bloody truth. Just again, let me point you to Exhibit A, Nasha, since you want to do the balanced truth thing. Just as when Max rocked up to the F175 thing and got booed, and his team, Jos Verstappen and his dad, were like, well, Max is never coming back if the UK fans are going to boo him. Just as when that happened, I was the one to say, hang on, I feel like I've heard Max once upon a time say something about boo. I was the one to dig up that footage and tweet it out. That same, Nasha. If there's a disconnect, I will call it out. If it's hypocrisy, then it's hypocrisy. A cost driver across. I don't give a fudge, chap. I will talk about it.
I think there's a difference between. What Max did in that it was with Lewis, right? What Max did, I think personally, was almost. I don't think even Max said that.
It wasn't Max. No, it wasn't Max.
It was his dad.
Yeah.
So you know, I think Max, when I actually asked about it, was pretty sanguine about it, and said he didn't really care either way. Whether that's look, his dad is a spokesperson for him, and I'm sure there was some hurt feelings there, but I guess with Lewis, it's almost as if you are almost trying to take us for pricks, bro. Like a little bit. And I think you're trying to take us for pricks in that you're trying to do that thing that people on F1 Twitter do so well when they're actually like, they're quite condescending and they're quite like, they almost try and use logic and straw man arguments and like quotes out of context, and they put these things to you and they almost say, hey, well, look at this, how could you possibly hold the position that you have, because look at this information that I'm showing you. And and I think for you to put that there, you're saying more than on the fucking 15th of April, this magazine cover stands as a counterpoint to point A that Lewis made on X date, right? You're not just pulling up two separate statements.
No, they are in counter. They are absolutely in counter. They counterbalance each other.
Let me finish. Right, but you're not just doing that because you are a fucking fact checker. You're doing that because you're trying to highlight that this guy is not serious about winning a world championship. And you're probably inferring that through what you think are subpar results, as evidenced by the fact that you tweet sabotage every time he does bad, okay? And people know you. So Cameron, like, yes, you are going to get cooked because this isn't a fucking isolated incident. It's not just a fact-checking exercise between point A and point B. You are inferring that Lewis Hamilton, because he's doing these things, is not serious about winning a world championship. And if he was serious about winning a world championship, then, as you said, you didn't like the marketing. You called it 24/7 HBO marketing.
True.
So you didn't even like the way he went into the team. You've been very vocal about that. You've been very vocal about any kind of deficit to show. You've been very vocal about that. You and your listeners, respectfully, were very quick to put down the China sprint Poland victory, say it doesn't count. It's not the same. Yeah, and there you go. There's your reaction. So we're not even counting that. And then here we go with these comments like this, which, by the way, is not the first comment. The other day you tweeted something, I was like, fucking hell, like, I was expecting you to get cooked then, and like it kind of went over people's heads. But this one did not go over people's heads. Now, do I agree with people calling you like, some of the names that they've called you? No, I don't. I think because I personally know you, I don't. I think if I didn't, I would wonder why, if I was to go through your last 20 tweets, what do you reckon the subject of those tweets would be?
Couldn't tell you, Nasha, being honest.
You can tell me.
I don't keep count, chap. But let me correct you though. Do
you not think there's a lot of like? Do you not think there's a lot of tongue in cheek stuff?
A lot of truth saying, chap. A lot of truth saying. That's the best way of characterizing. That's the word that's most.
Why am I truth saying? on fact checking or bringing down a peg Lewis Hamilton and Lewis Hamilton fans. By extension, Lewis Hamilton, okay, his fans, but by extension, the driver. If I start talking about Verstappen fans, that is by extension the driver.
Well, I mean, they're not completely. So let me hold you a second there, Nasha, because there's a point there. There's a couple of points that you've made there. Yeah. One of which I want to pull you up on. I'm invested, Nasha, in Sir Lewis winning an 8th. Like, irrespective of what anybody says. Listen, internet's a very funny place, and people will tell you that you're all sorts of X, Y, and Z, all the while you're A, B, and C. And if you're not careful with your lines of delineation, that there's a risk that you lean into becoming or being what they're telling you are. I am not any of the things that they're telling me that I am. All I want, Nasha, is for Lewis Hamilton to win himself an 8th. And I think it's in the ways, it's in the hows and the whys, the beauty. Look, 2018, Lewis Hamilton can do, in his pomp, he can go and do whatever he wants, can go to like 10 Met Galas in the same weekend and rock up to 2018 Singapore and put in one of the god-tierest laps that anybody's ever seen in F1 ever. In 2025 though, Nasha, the F1 conversation that me and you are having in real time is as follows. I think Lewis Hamilton at the ripe old age of 40 years old in that Ferrari can no longer afford to do all of this other SH1T, chap. If the conversation we're having, Nasha,
do you want him to settle down and have a kid?
If the conversation, no, don't do that, Nasha. If the conversation we're having, look, you saw what Nico Rosberg had to go to, the lengths that he had to go to.
Because Nico Rosberg's shit.
Look, because Nico Rosberg had a deficit on his rival in the same team, Sir Lewis Hamilton. Always had a natural talent deficit. Lewis Hamilton 2018 could go and do whatever he wanted to, and he'd still go away and win a race to the tune of 20 to 30 seconds. Now in 2025, Nasha, if we're putting on our F1 caps for just a second, my principal supposition is as follows. If Lewis Hamilton's to win an 8th, I'm not sure he could act and move and do like how he did 5 or 10 years ago, because the gaps are much smaller. The cars are different. The ground effect, we know that he doesn't like it. Sector 3 making mistakes every single qualifying session as near as makes no difference. Charles Leclerc, a fire breathing dragon in the other car. You've got Max that you've got to beat. Lando, Oscar Piastri now. The circumstance is different now, Nasha. So my point is simply this. If Sir Lewis Hamilton is to give himself the best chance, as at the 16th of the 4th, 2025, of winning an 8th championship, which is something that I would pay money, lots of, to see, then I'm not sure that his approach, his modus operandi, as at the 15th, 16th even of the 4th, 2025, is as it should be. Again, maybe he never wins one. Maybe he wins one as it is. All I'm arguing to you, Nasha, is this. If he wants to give himself the best chance, chap, at the age of 40, to do what only one other man has done in Juan Fangio, win a championship at 3 or more teams that only 3 people have done in F1 history, win a championship of the drivers' variety at 40 years or older, 66 Brabham, Farina 1950, Juan Fangio in 57. I would argue that he can go to the Met Gala if he wants to, chap. Don't forget me. But I would argue that what we're seeing from the fella isn't necessarily stacking the odds in his favour. Full stop, new paragraph.
Again, I don't think I'm seeing, I'm not seeing the panic, I guess. Like, for me, like, I'm seeing 4 races in.
Let's talk about that, bruv, because he hasn't been. And again, people, you're talking about out both sides of your mouth.
But I feel like we have the same conversation.
No. But Nasha, he hasn't been that bad. Like, I'm not saying he's been rubbish. Like, he hasn't been 3-2. Charles Leclerc, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not the end of the world. The last qualifying session, he wasn't the usual 2 to 3 tenths adrift, and again, a brilliant performance last time out. So he hasn't been that bad. All I'm saying, chap, is if that he wants to optimise for his chances, then I'm not sure what we're seeing is the modus operandi. That's all. Nothing more. But
I guess we can agree to disagree on that. But I feel like.
So hold on, Ashley. You think that going to the Met Gala and doing all them things at the ripe old age of 40 in that red car and that Ferrari with that operational infrastructure?
Cameron, we're talking about, again, would you rather he was at home with a fucking child? Like, I don't.
That's
no. Let's be fucking honest. No, let's be honest.
That's a fallacy, bro.
It's not a fallacy, and I think people.
Would I rather he was like doing? Do you know what I mean? Late night in the club. That's
nonsense. Max Verstappen having a kid is think that's good for him.
Well, but it's a conversation again.
Okay. So all I'm saying is, what was the lyric from Kendrick? Count Me Out. Where he is like, hold on, I'm gonna get the cameo lyrics because basically it is like a very prominent thing that people think that
no, I get it, bro. You're about
like
to say
in terms of
like
people tell you to work harder, basically, right? And then you end up like work harder, cut everything out, minimize everything, go fucking caveman, go missing, whatever. All these things you need to fucking minimize your life. You know, everyone points to Nico Rosberg. Look, Nico Rosberg is an engine failure away from wasting a whole year of his life and basically sacrificing his family for fuck all. Let's not get it twisted. No, let's not get it twisted, okay? Right? Nico Rosberg was a very lucky man, right?
True.
He's a very lucky man. And it works out. And it works out for him.
Look, some say Nashi's where...
Look, means preparation. 100%. 100%. He had to be there to take advantage of it. 100%. Was he there in 2015? No. Hence why Sebastian Vettel was in and around the Mercedes whenever he was. What I'm saying is that everyone's version of you need to work harder isn't the same. And I think it's quite clear now as someone who's like, I'm similar to this, but I definitely struggle with the idea of like concentrating for large periods of time, having a bit of a brain while I want to do multiple things. You know, it sometimes it actually makes you more capable if you're willing to balance the things that you're doing. And I think the things that might work for you may not be the things that work for him. I think if Lewis Hamilton is going to the Met Gala, he's not drinking. He's not like, do you know what I mean? You act like he's Dennis fucking Rodman, for fuck's sake. Like, do you know what I mean? Lewis Hamilton, do you know what he brought out recently? He brought out non-alcoholic tequila beverage. Why? Because he doesn't really drink that much. He's not there. This isn't like the 90s, bro. This isn't Paul Gascoigne. This isn't Jack Grealish. This isn't Dennis Rodman, okay? This is Lewis Hamilton going... I'm probably more worried about Lewis Hamilton being offered a fucking line of coke at the Met Gala than I'm worried about him fucking drinking and getting out of sorts and getting out of shape. He's probably the fittest driver on the grid in terms of physical fitness. And like for me, going to the Met Gala, doing a photo shoot, how many photo shoots per year do drivers do? How many stupid little videos with their own teams do drivers do? Lewis Hamilton being an ambassador for the sport, this sport that you purport to love, this sport that you say runs through your fucking veins, yeah? For you to downplay, downtrod, fucking diminish the work that he's doing in spreading the gospel of this sport, which is going to allow mine and your family to eat for generations to come, I just think is really disingenuous, and people can see through that, and that's why you're getting cooked up. And I will say that I just think that your idea of knuckling down, you're like when my family told me to cut my dreads off to show that I was
behave yourself. Person. Behave no, but this yourself. Is what you're saying. Stop putting words in my mouth.
But you're saying
no, that's not what I'm saying.
Going to the Met Gala is bad.
No, what I'm negative. That's not.
Why can't he do both?
Listen very clearly. I'm gonna tell you one last time, sir. This is really important. All I'm saying is this. I don't think what Sir Lewis Hamilton is doing, given the circumstance. Listen, if he's 25 years old and whatever, and he's got a bloody split turbo hybrid Mercedes with a 40 brake horsepower advantage, and he's the best on the grid by a gazillion miles, nobody can get close, including Sebastian Vettel. If that's the circumstance, then whatever. None of that's going to matter. Ultimately, it's going to fade to back because your durable competitive advantage is so material, of such consequence, that ultimately you're always going to get it over the line. All I'm saying to you is this, Nasha, that was then. This is now. The circumstance is different. It's not necessarily the strongest of the species that survives, but the most adaptable to change. Sir Lewis Hamilton is 40 years old. We've seen the mistakes creeping in. Sector 3 qualifying's not what it used to be. So too, we're talking about race pace. Okay, so he's still there. But what about the ground effect, the aggressive braking, the V-line? All of these things still in tow. Things that he's got to solve for, right? The rear's not as stable necessarily as he'd like. Ergo, I would argue that as at now, as at the 16th of the 4th, 2025, Nasha, I would argue that if he wants to win a championship and he wants to stack the probability in his favour, that the Vogue, all of the other things might not necessarily be optimising for his probability. Full stop, new paragraph. Can we talk about Max Verstappen? I'm tired of all the Sir Lewis chat. You Sir Lewis Hamilton extremist, you know what I mean? With your peculiar brand of rhetoric.
Do
you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? With your peculiar, averting your gaze from the truth, the whole truth.
Let's talk about your guy then. Go on then.
Go on. Let's talk about it.
What happened to my yacht?
Here's what happened. Here's what happened. We're talking about Japan. What happened there when he put in one of the god-tier slaps that you've ever seen?
Let's move on.
When he went through Degner turn 1 at a minimum speed, never carried
why didn't he do
by
that this
any
week?
F1 car, because the car is an SH1T.
So it does matter when. So when someone's car isn't good and that affects the performance, that is a thing that happens, right? Oh, because I've been told that. You know, Max could drive around anything. I've been told. In fact, I got roundly criticised for suggesting that car that weekend was a car capable of getting pole, and it wasn't this monstrous, horrible car to drive. Do you know why? Because this week it was a horrible car to drive, and he wasn't able to drive around it, and that's fine. And I just think. It's okay for Max fans to admit that the car for the last 4 years has been fast. Okay? Now, has it been the fastest at all times? No. I would probably argue beginning of 2022, the Ferrari was probably quicker. Not for long. Let's not act like it was like that for a long time, but there was a period. And we could probably argue the back end of I guess from the middle of last year, let's say half a season, right? Because I think there were still good performances in Spain and so forth. But there have been periods where the car hasn't. But the way that you guys, specifically talking to Verstappen fans, would act like that car was like all of a sudden, if it wasn't like the quickest car, it was the worst car on the grid, and wow, what a Herculean effort. Max is like, come on, relax. Okay, last week I think showed that there are I think it's hilarious the collective crisis around what happens when Max has like a mediocre race. You know, all of a sudden, can he go to Mercedes? Can he go to Aston? Oh, they're having a dramatic meeting with Pierre and Helmer and fucking what's his name, Jos and Christian Horner, all in the paddock. I don't know what to say to you. I like that Yuki was in the top 10 as well, which again, I think shows that the car is a competent car, competent drivers doing.
How very
well, because people were saying, oh, look what happened to his teammates. Look, Liam Lawson was in 20th. The car must be the slowest car on the grid. That's the maths that people don't make me read comments out.
I can't.
That's the maths that people are doing. Like, I just think it was a bad race. It maybe was track specific, maybe temperature specific. We haven't really seen it. We haven't seen Red Bull drop off to that extent, probably since what? I want to say probably that part last season where they were just like nowhere, like well Max was nowhere, coming like 6th, 7th in races. I don't think we've seen the car as bad since then. So it'll be interesting to see if they kind of go on a similar run as to last season.
How
You know,
very
I,
dare
I,
you,
I'm trying.
Chap.
I'm trying. I don't know.
How
Is
very
that not?
dare you. How
Is that
very dare you minimalise
what?
the
What?
extent to which that RB21 is an absolute dog. So
Oh
look,
God! Oh,
all you need to know, all you
Cameron,
need to know is this.
how can you
Nasha,
be here
don't
talking
you
about
pettifog me.
saying
Don't
and
you
then
pettifog me.
my
If Max Verstappen can't keep Jack Doohan in an Alpine that's running 30 to 40 brake horsepower less
that
as far as
Alpine's a
its
good
mass.
car. That Alpine's a
Mate,
good car.
listen to me. If Max Verstappen can't keep Jack Doohan out of his DRS, then that tells you all you need to know, chap. That's all you need to. And if he struggles desperately in the dying numbers of the Grand Prix to overtake Pierre Gasly, GTFO.
Do you not think the Alpines? But the Alpines had a good. Everyone knows that the Alpines had a good chassis for a minute now.
Stop it, Nasha. That car's not good.
What's
At
happened?
the very least, let me say what it is about the RB21. Here's where we are. It's very difficult to set up. Understeery and
100%.
snap oversteer.
Yeah.
Oversteer. So they locked out. They rolled a couple sixes at Suzuka, and Max was able to drag that car kicking and screaming to a place where it shouldn't have been.
Can I make a point on that? Can I make a quick point on that? Sorry, because I just want to say that one of the points that I'd never mentioned on that podcast was that everyone in the team was very. We talk about the relationship between GP and Max and how good they are and so forth. And I think Christian and I think even Max intimated that they just worked really well at getting the tires into the best place for Max in that, and there was an understanding of the car, and GP was a large part in that. So I just wanted to say, yes, Max did a great job, but I just think sometimes when you guys put it all on Max, you really do detract from a team which is operationally an excellent team, and at times.
Hold on.
No,
Sure.
is that not? Is
Sure,
that
Nasha,
if
please.
you're saying
Please.
if you, no? I'm just saying that if that work hadn't been done to be able to enable Max in a dogshit car to extract as much as he could have, then that lap might not have happened. Is that not? Well, sorry, Cameron. What am I saying there? That's I feel like I'm in a twilight zone. What am I saying there? That's like as people who follow this sport. What is me saying? His engineer helping him to develop that car throughout the session to the point where he was confident enough to throw that car around the way he did in Q3 is a good thing and shows the great part of the team. Why is that a bad thing?
GP assessed it, and for that he deserves props. But if you're going to extend that out to the broader team, Nasha, because of what happened at Bahrain, I would call you disingenuous.
Oh, well,
listen, let me tell you why, Nasha. Let me tell you why.
Callum.
No, let me tell. Oh, flipping Nora, chap, mate. Let me tell you why. This is where it gets techie and techie things. Here's what's going on at Red Bull. All of their key bods have left. Wheatley's left, Newey's left, Marshall's left, Fallows have left. And nobody knows now how to fix that car. They rolled a couple of sixes in Japan and it worked out right. But if you win the lottery, Nasha, that doesn't mean you've got what it takes to be a professional gambler, chap. Do you know what I mean? You've done everything wrong and it's turned out right. That's where Red Bull are now. That wind tunnel is a botch job. Correlation. They look like Mercedes. You remember when Ferrari a couple of years ago, they kept on saying, oh, we've got a rocket ship, and then they'd come to the track and then all of a sudden the wheels
Mercedes for the last
Ferrari,
2 years.
Mercedes too. That's where Red Bull are, chap. That wind tunnel is a nonsense. Like they'll extrapolate data on Monday and then run the same test on Tuesday, and the data comes out different. What they're going to have to do going forward, Nasha, is lean onto all of the testing that they're doing on flipping track. Chap, their correlation is off the scale. The car is an absolute it's nonsense. A couple of times this year they'll roll a few sixes like they did at the Japanese Grand Prix. That doesn't mean all of a sudden, Nasha, like what you're saying is that all of a sudden the car's a world beater. That car on its worst day is P7, chap. That's where it deserves to go. Max Verstappen getting gapped by Jack Doohan. Behave yourself, Nasha.
So when Max was finishing second, third, qualifying top four. Why is
it's mercurial, chap.
So you're saying that was all Max?
No, I'm saying the car is. I'm saying a lot. Look, the car is always 60 to 70% of the equation, right? The driver can only do so much, but the car is mercurial, chap. Always has been, going back to 2022 and the bloody Spa and the way they're easing off through the compression that's over it. It's always been very technical and tricky to set up. Now that all the god tier personnel have left, no more Marshall, no more Newey, no more Jonathan Wheatley to operate the god tier pit stops. The thing is falling apart.
What do you predict? What do you predict?
I predict Max Verstappen is going to leave that team, chap.
There's only one place for him to go.
Well, is there, Nasha? Is there
He's not replacing George.
Is there really? The latest that I'm hearing is that, well, people want to talk about this George Russell contract. They've dragged their feet long enough. I'm not sure that George Russell contract is 30 million a year. George has been good, yeah, but he hasn't been that good. Not in 202. Not to where Toto won't still be looking across the way and flirting his eyes at Max with a view to fix for that ill.
I think that's wishful thinking. I'm not going to lie to you. I think that's wishful thinking on the part of Max fans. I'm not going to lie to you. Honestly, I think that window's gone. No. I think Toto's rolled the dice once, and that was the Lewis and Kimi thing. And, you know, in the words of some washed up content creator, you know, he probably looks like a genius in that regard. But it's another thing to roll the dice again. And I guess it's not as much of a dice roll, but it's definitely an aggressive move to essentially kick George Russell out the sport, unless there's, not kick him out of the sport, because I'm sure someone will pick him up. You know, you're looking at Aston Martin, you're looking at, you know, you'd assume. I mean, look, if Max leaves Red Bull, who can Red Bull get? Because Christian Horner doesn't want Lando Norris. He can't get Oscar Piastri, especially if Oscar Piastri is winning championships at McLaren. There's going to be a Mercedes engine in the back of that car for the engine regulations, puts them in a pretty strong position. Who else is there for Red Bull to get? You know, Fernando?
Mate, behave yourself. Exactly. It's got to be George coming the other way.
It's got to be George. Is that, you know? I don't know. I just don't. Personally, I think that time has gone. I think George, in all honesty, like I said, I think I said this on the pod, he's having a Daniel Ricciardo 2018 season prior to the contract being signed, where he is the hottest free agent on the market at the moment. And I think it behooves Mercedes to sign him on. And have that stability within a team, and probably a better environment for Kimi as well than bringing in Max Verstappen and just, I guess, like going Hail Mary on that, where, you know, if the car is fast, I think we've seen George. I think George is showing that he can extract the most out of it. That, you know, the Mercedes have ostensibly been building the car that George wants for the last 3 years anyway. So why move away from that? So I don't know. I think that's wishful thinking from Max fans, honestly.
I
don't think that's there anymore. I think if you last year when George was fucking up, maybe. This year, I think George is in a much stronger position.
I think he's been brilliant thus far this year. Really but good. I will say that people close to the source, Ronald Vording of motorsport.com, poured water on the fact that George Russell was close to signing a 30 million.
I don't think it's close.
I don't think it's
close. Honestly,
and they wouldn't write off Max having pole position for that seat as soon as 2026, chap. That's what he said. His words, not mine. Very quickly, mate, as we ran third base. Since you bring it up, I want to hold you to account on Oscar Piastri, a man about whom you've not had very nice things to say, thinking that Lando Norris was going to nail him.
That's not true.
What do you say now, chap?
Now you want to bring it up.
What do you say now?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Cameron's got nothing here other than impeccable timing on his account. Like, absolutely nowhere after Australia, but here we are. Oh no! Look, I think I said this last week, before this week, and I think I said that Oscar Piastri is, uh, if you take away, and I think I said this on Sunday, take away that trip, if that trip into the grass in Australia didn't happen, we're looking at someone who probably had the pace to beat Lando in Australia, and it would have been interesting to see how that would have turned up. And has basically been the form driver for the year, right? There's no one that's been more consistent than Oscar Piastri. Um, I think for me, I wanted to see if the peaks and troughs in Oscar's performance could be ironed out, and I think they really have. I think we're looking at this is. I think this is. I'm trying to think of a Verstappen season where you're like, but yeah, this is Oscar's 2021. This is, this is, I guess his equivalent to, yeah, Lewis Hamilton's first title fight. Obviously, which happened in his first season, but um, you know, we're looking at a driver who you're struggling to see their flaws at the moment. Um, he's got a better handle on that McLaren car. So we'll see. One thing McLaren can do is develop a car over a season. So I'm kind
Mate.
of like waiting to see as the upgrades go on the car, is Lando still struggling, or does it start to put that gap there? Because it's quite a significant gap between them in qualifying at the moment.
That's the chaos, bro.
That's what's like worrying me a little bit. And then on top of that, I mean, I guess you've got a pretty big vagrant there, and in last week probably did increase that average quite a lot. We've got a pretty small sample size, so yeah,
He's
no,
looking he's
yeah,
looking ominous, chap. I'll tell you
it's
that about
it's ominous.
Oscar.
How do you? I mean, obviously, I know you've backed him from last
No,
year,
no,
so
no, no, Nasha. I think me and you were singing from the same hymn sheet. Being honest,
yeah,
I think coming into 2025, I felt like Lando's the gap. I mean, what was it like? Something like 20-3 in qualifying
yeah,
last year. Lando versus Oscar.
it
That's
was,
chaos. I didn't think that Oscar would have done enough in the off season. Would have grown enough to
yeah,
to
yeah,
overcome that deficit. Is the truth. And I
yeah.
still expect Lando to do better against him than he's done over the past three. But there's something going on with that Oscar
There's
chap.
something going
There's
on.
something going on.
There's
I'm hearing
something
too many
happening.
people that, when the Pandora's box is just open and there's no bringing that train
No,
back to the station.
it's yeah, no,
Everyone to a man or woman now, she was saying that there's something to that dude. Stella said that he's got zero mental noise. James Allen on his podcast recently said that there's something very he's full send Michael Schumacher. He's ruthless and bloody intelligent. Did you see him in the quali press conference as well when he was going through? Like they asked him about tyre strategy, and he was like, "Well, Lando's still got two hards left. Max has got two and he just went through all the principal protagonists and he knew how much offhand what
yeah.
tyres they had. I'm like, you know what, this chap is. I think he's more intelligent than people give him credit for, and he's done what I don't think
Yes,
Lando's done in the off season. He knew that he needed to fix for his qualifying performance and his tyre management, and he's definitely fixed for the first. And it seems like in conjunction with the MCL 39 and its ability to mitigate or minimise for tyre deg, it seems
the
like
th-
he's
the,
doing the second,
the
bro.
the thing is, Bahrain was a good race for sure. I mean, it was a better race than we've had. The issue of dirty air really is a big thing, and if it is going to be a qualifying championship, where are we this week? Saudi Arabia could end up being a bit of a DRS kind of, not DRS train, but in terms of trying to follow through those quick corners with all the dirty air that's coming out. Obviously, you do have long straights there, but I can envisage it being not that exciting a race. You're almost kind of waiting on safety cars in Saudi Arabia a little bit. So, um, again, if this qualifying gap stays the way that it is,
Mate.
I do struggle to see. I mean, either way, to be honest, I just don't. I just feel like if Oscar's got a better handle on the car and he's qualifying ahead of Lando, then he's going to win the race because
Unbelievable.
McLaren's the quickest and it's difficult to overtake in this era. So, man, you
Chaos,
know,
chap.
we're watching the birth of a superstar. Like I said, you know, when we were watching Max Verstappen come through all those years and was like, this is inevitable. He's going to win a world championship at one stage. Watching Lewis, we're watching someone who doesn't seem to have any flaws. In the same way where, I guess, with that class of 2018, with Lando, George, Alex, obviously Charles the year before, maybe. So Charles was 2018, they were 2019, weren't they? There was a flaw about each one of them,
He's got
whereas this, like, he seems to have ironed out the tire flaw and the qualifying flaw. He seems to have ironed that out. So scary hours, it's scarier for Lando. I'd be pushing for that Red Bull seat if I was Lando, to be honest.
Oh my goodness,
he's about to have his chain snatched in his own team, and if Oscar Piastri wins a title at McLaren before Lando,
it's done.
The kid that they poached from Alpine, by the way.
I know that Red Bull should have been in for.
Yeah. Too. The fact that Mark Webber didn't say to Red Bull, look, I've got this here. Like, I've got a ting here. He didn't do that. He took him to, look, manager of the year. Manager of the fucking year. Insane.
Oh, the humanity, Lando. I'll just end with this, chap. What's more concerning for Lando is that it's not like one sector. Like when you look at the qualifying deltas, he's like Oscar's gaining on Lando to the tune of like a tenth or a tenth and a half over the course each sector.
Yeah,
that speaks to him having an absolute an advantage in terms of absolute pace, right?
Well, I mean, look, Lando's saying that he wishes he knew what it was that's changed since last year. And when you and I know, when drivers start talking like that, pardon me. When drivers start talking like that, it's scary because there's almost a helplessness to like, I don't know how to fix this. And if you're there, that's when you start messing with things, you start over driving, you do setup changes, and you're almost in. A good analogy was when Unai Emery was managing Arsenal. I used to listen to Arsenal podcasts, and they used to describe his like tactical changes from race to race from match to match. During the matches, they used to describe it as the tumble dryer, Unai Emery's tumble dryer, and I feel like that's what happens with F1 drivers a little bit. You're just trying to find something that's going to work, and we've seen it with Lewis last year. Maybe we've seen it with Lewis a little bit this year.
I wasn't even going to say lest the masses come for me and say that I'm talking too negative about the man.
I think that's something that he said. I think he said Charles had something. I went different, and that's what resulted in it. I don't think it's good when people intimate that maybe he was lying about a component being broken, and then Ferrari came out and said there was a component broken. These things happen, but that's by the by. I think he himself is a known tinkerer. You're a prick. A known tinkerer, and when you're tinkering with no real end goal in sight, you could just make the situation worse and worse and worse and worse. So let's see what happens with Lando. I hope for the sake of the championship that we have that he's able to kind of get up there. We can have a 2014 style kind of championship battle, but we'll see.
Touche. I concur, sir. And on that bombshell, Nasha, I will close the call. Listen, if you're not over to Quick Stop F1 and haven't subscribed to hear Nasha's insights, God tier levels, Barry, comedic timing, sleight of hand, God tier on each and every single occasion. What are you doing with your life? Go over to that YouTube channel, hit the subscribe, and shortly thereafter subscribe or follow or 5 stars on your favourite podcasting platform. I've been your boy Cameron CC. That's been Nasha of Quick Stop F1. Between now and next time, remember to look and never stare.